The Galactic Academy's crystalline halls had never witnessed such chaos. Ambassador Kale of the Velrithian Collective stood frozen, his 6 eyes wide with shock, staring at the tiny puncture marks on his diplomatic sash. The ornate fabric, woven with threads that represented 3 centuries of peace accords, now bore the unmistakable imprint of juvenile teeth. The culprit, a Thraxian cub no larger than a Terran housecat, had already vanished behind the legs of Meera Chen, the human xenobiology instructor. The cub's crystalline eyes were enormous with terror, its spotted fur standing on end as it pressed itself against Meera's boots. "This is an outrage," Kale's translator crackled with indignation. That creature assaulted a diplomatic envoy. The Thraxian delegation must remove it from this institution immediately. Around them, students from a dozen species had stopped in the corridor, their various sensory organs trained on the unfolding drama. Some whispered through chemical signals, others through rapid-fire chirps. The predator species representatives looked particularly uncomfortable. This incident could set back their admission protocols by decades. Meera didn't move. She simply looked down at the trembling cub, then back at the ambassador. Her expression remained calm, almost serene in that peculiar way humans had that unnerved so many species. It was the look of someone who had already made a decision and was simply waiting for the universe to catch up. "Ambassador Kale," she said quietly, "might I examine the wound?" "Wound?" Kale sputtered. "It barely broke the outer membrane, but that's hardly the point. The intent, the violation of—" "May I?" Meera interrupted, her tone still gentle but somehow immovable. The ambassador thrust his sash forward. Meera knelt, bringing herself to eye level with both the damaged fabric and the cowering cub. Her fingers traced the tiny puncture marks with the precision of a scientist and the gentleness of a caretaker. "Zix," she said softly, and the cub whimpered, a sound that translated universally as distress. "Why did you bite the ambassador?" The cub's translator collar sputtered with broken syllables. "So scary. Came fast. I didn't mean. Please don't send me home. Please, Miss Meera, I'll be good. I promise I'll be so good." Kale's posture shifted slightly. His primary speaking arms crossed, but his other 4 limbs betrayed uncertainty. "The creature admits guilt. By Academy protocols," Meera interrupted again, finally standing to her full height. "We investigate incidents before passing judgment. Isn't that correct, Ambassador? Or have the rules changed since you helped write them?" A few students made sounds that might have been gasps. Humans were known for their audacity, but directly challenging an ambassador in public was bold even by their standards. Kale's facial tendrils tightened. "Context is irrelevant when context is everything," Meera countered. She pulled up her data pad, projecting security footage into the air between them. "You rounded the corner at 4.7 meters per second, quite fast for these halls." Zix was retrieving a dropped data crystal, crouched low. From his perspective, a large predator species came charging directly at him. The footage showed exactly that. The ambassador, hurrying to a meeting, swept around the corner like a botanical storm. The cub, barely visible at ankle height, reacted on pure instinct, a defensive nip at what his ancestral brain registered as a threat, followed immediately by flight. Instinctive reactions in juveniles are protected under Section 47 of the Interspecies Education Charter, Meera continued. A document you co-authored, if I recall correctly. The one that argued young predator species deserve the same protections as prey species when adapting to multi-species environments. The corridor had gone silent. Even the chemical communicators had ceased their emissions. Kyle's eyes, all 6 of them, focused on the footage, then on the cub, then on Meera. His tendrils slowly relaxed. "I was moving rather quickly. You were late for the council meeting on expanded predator admission," Meera said. Ironic timing, really. Behind Meera's legs, Zix had begun to shake less violently. One small eye peeked around her calf. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he lowered himself to the floor, a significant gesture for a Velrithian. His face was now level with the cub's hiding spot. "Young Thraxian," he said, his tone gentler, "I apologize for frightening you. I should have been more mindful of smaller students in the corridors." Zix's translator barely whispered, You're not mad?" "I am reconsidering my initial assessment," Kyle admitted. He glanced up at Meera. Your human instructor is quite persuasive. She's the best, Zix said, gaining a fraction of confidence. She says humans used to be prey and predator. That's why they understand everybody. Meera smiled faintly. That's a simplification, but close enough. Kyle rose, his diplomatic bearing returning. I will file an incident report noting extenuating circumstances. Young Zix will receive a warning about corridor awareness, and I will receive a reminder about appropriate walking speeds in academic zones. He paused. And perhaps you might join me for that council meeting, Instructor Chen. Your perspective on juvenile predator psychology seems valuable. I'd be honored, Ambassador. As Kale departed, considerably slower than he'd arrived, Meera felt a small weight against her leg. Zix had wrapped his tiny arms around her calf, his fear finally dissolving into relief. Thank you, the cub whispered. Meera reached down, gently scratching behind his tufted ears. Next time you're scared, use your words first, okay? Even if your instincts say otherwise. That's what we're all here to learn. Even humans? Especially humans, Meera said softly. We spent a very long time learning to talk instead of bite. Still working on it, honestly. As the crowd dispersed and the corridor returned to normal, a Zinthari student approached cautiously. Instructor Chen, is it true that humans were once apex predators on their world? Persistence predators, Meera corrected, beginning to walk toward her classroom with Zix trotting beside her. We ran our prey to exhaustion over days. Not very dignified, but effective. And now you teach us not to bite, Zix said, something like wonder in his voice. Meera laughed, a sound that made several students jump. Now we teach everyone that teeth are optional when you have words. That's the human trick, really. We learn to be both predator and prey, hunter and hunted, fierce and gentle. It's not about choosing one or the other. She looked down at the cub. It's about knowing when to show your teeth and when to offer your hand. Zix considered this, his juvenile mind working through the complexity. Then he smiled, carefully keeping his very sharp teeth hidden. I think I understand, he said, and as they disappeared into the classroom, the Academy continued its grand experiment, teaching the galaxy's children that the space between species wasn't a battlefield, but a classroom. And sometimes it just took a human to remind everyone why that mattered.